I'm Christian Bullard,
I'm Tony Church.
and today we're talking about the women's division. All right, so let's see here. We need this is a video that needs a starting place, but with everything going on in this division, there really is no starting place because it's kind of all over right now. So
yeah, we try to come up with a list of some things to talk about and finding the good things to talk about so far. Hopefully some come out as we speak because the list is pretty short. But like AEW, man, let's talk about the women's division. Like Tony, come on. Well, first off, we have this last week, there was this announcement, and I think we were already thinking about doing this video, and then this announcement came up, and we just like shook our heads. Why? AEW announced that there's going to be a women's tag team cup tournament, and they loosely said coming soon kind of deal.
right.
A date, and they kept showing different girls that could potentially be a tag team. But it just really threw me off, and I just was like, man, you guys have to, fix what you have first. I gave the analogy last week about, like you first open up a restaurant, you don't go and become the Cheesecake Factory and have the biggest menu on the planet Earth. Like you start small and you build, and AEW has done so good at doing that, except for in this division.
Yeah.
And so I just think the Women's Tag Team Cup is like, why did you announce this? Wait a year. Like, please wait a year.
Mm-hmm. Build
Build your division. Potentially, bring on more girls or use more indie girls. That's fine. But not now. What's your thoughts, man?
Yeah, this is like it's just more stuff they have to deal with, and they can't deal with the division by itself. So how are they going to make this work? So it's like I've never really seen like a really solid women's tag team division. Obviously, I mean WWE, they have women's tag team titles. TNA had women's.
Not a strong division though.
Yeah, but it's not. There's really no division. It's just these two single competitors are together just to fill the spot for the tag title. So, I don't really need to see a women's tag team division. But that even like not even being the main point. I think the main point though is just like AEW, they're just not in a spot to be able to take that on. So.
Yeah. I can't even think of a legitimate women's tag team off the top of my head.
The only thing,
especially not in the indies, somewhere they can pull from. Like, I can think of indie tag teams. I can think of tag teams in all of these companies that are actually tag team wrestlers in a tag team. Like, you can think of that. You can see releases of stuff like that, like FTR recently getting released from WWE and being able to come in, like LAX, who Proud and Powerful, like. There's these tag team wrestling so far has been very male dominant. And so I would want to see like more just women's tag teams in general start coming in. Like if they know, because obviously they know way more about indie wrestling and indie wrestlers than we do. Like bring some of them in, show a couple of matches, like get us interested, get us involved, like invested in the fact that there is a women's tag team like that exists to begin with. And then go from there, because like I said, the women's tag team titles in WWE are literally only singles competitors coming together, except for maybe the Iconics, and that's loosely, but that's only because neither of them really cared to challenge for an actual women's singles title. But
right,
nonetheless, like get me invested. I guess my question about this is like, is this tournament going to be kind of build its own story within the tournament? Like, is it going to be like a pay-per-view where they build its own story in the tournament? Or are they going to, like even the TNT Championship tournament, which happened week over week, had other things come into it? Like we had some rivalries before it even started. We were watching that thinking, oh, we could see Cody Dustin too. There were some things going on with that. where it wasn't necessarily a standalone thing. It took place on Dynamite. It was spread out over multiple weeks, and there was so much influence into the storylines. Is this going to be completely separate? And that's not a bad thing. Like WWE has done that with like the UK Championship tournament. It was completely separate. Everybody was pretty much brand new, and it was an amazing tournament. Still one of the best things I've ever watched in wrestling. And then they birthed an entire division out of it. Are they going to do that? There's just so many questions, and I maybe it's too soon to really assess this. I think the biggest critique, which we've said a few times already, is you're not doing well with what you have. Chill out.
Yeah.
I don't know. Those are just my thoughts on that.
Yeah, there's obviously I want to give the benefit of the doubt. It just seems like they're just kind of throwing things at the wall to see what sticks. And so far, nothing's really stuck.
I think in your first year, though, that's not the worst time to do it. Like your second year, I guess. Like, you're trying to figure out what's working. Like, at least it's not a 10-year Saudi Arabia contract.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
right. Yeah.
They're gonna try this once. Apparently, rumors they're gonna try this once. If it doesn't go well, they just won't do it again.
Yeah.
But the hope is that it will go well. I just don't know. When I think of this Women's Cup, I just keep thinking of them panning back and forth close to the like two black girls with blonde hair on Dynamite this last week. And like that's all I see is these two people I've never heard of, never seen before, except for maybe on an episode of Dark, are like somewhat supposed to draw me into this tournament. That just kind of got announced. Like, just doesn't make sense to me.
Yeah, definitely. Moving on, then we have the kind of revolving around the women's championship is the lack of actual championship storylines, and really storylines in general, but kind of fixating more on just the championship because I think that speaks more volume than other things outside of that. So, like for example, you have Hikaru Shida, and she kind of had a feud sort of with Nyla Rose, and which she'd obviously won the title, and then since then she's just kind of been like challenging.
Yeah, she had kind of a 3-week thing with Penelope Ford, but like the way that started was literally like Penelope Ford talked trash on it. Like they already knew they were gonna fight, and then Penelope Ford talked some trash from ringside, and Hikaru Shida hit her, and now it actually mattered. Like,
well, it's like it's just kind of like, oh shoot, we need Shida to face someone. Okay, let's just throw Penelope Ford out there. You guys do a couple quick like trash talking things. Okay, that match is done. Okay, let's see. We need to figure something else now. So it's just kind of like just cycling through people. There's nothing that really actually matters. Like, I have absolutely no reason to think that like Penelope was going to win the match because it just like it didn't really matter.
But she looked great in that match. Just a side note, like
from like a match, like perspective, yes, but from a storyline perspective,
trash.
I just didn't care.
Yeah, I'm with you. And then since then we have they've basically made 2 storylines out of injuries here. You have the one storyline that's Britt Baker and Swole, but the other storyline is that everybody who should be competing for the title is injured. So who are you going to fight? Like they actually said that on TV.
Yeah.
And then they had what Ivelisse and the girl who beat her this last week. I'm sorry, I can't think.
Diamante.
Yeah, Diamante. They had those two. Like, oh, okay, cool. We've been on Dark Splash in the Casino Battle Royal. Like, let's go for this thing. I have no reason to believe that Diamante is going to win. Like, is it at all a challenger? There's zero storyline, and I just don't know. There's just no storyline with the women's title right now except for Hikaru Shida won it. It's like I almost would prefer Nyla was the champion right now because Nyla could talk. Like, Nyla could cut a good promo about different things. And so I just think this division is lacking. We have that same thing with Riho as the champion. Like, they actually had a pretty decent story building up to Riho becoming the champion. And then Riho loses it to Nyla, which was a decent story. There was a really decent story with Nyla then losing to Hikaru Shida. And then since then it's downhill again. So it's just kind of like these mountain peaks. And I just don't know. I don't, when women come on the screen right now in AEW, like, I don't think I'm about to be entertained.
Yeah.
Honestly, like,
Yeah.
and that last week's match was actually really good. Like those two girls just brawling it out. But like, I was not expecting to be entertained when they came on the screen at all, and so that kind of took away from me.
Let's time out real quick. I don't know whose dog is barking, but I can hear it.
Yeah, it's mine.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, hold on
something you...
My pizza got here.
Oh, okay.
Hold on 1 second. Thank you. My bad.
You're good.
I was like, dang it.
Okay, then we have, let's see, Brandy stuff. Oh, boy. All right.
Okay, I'll let you talk for a little bit on this before I start ranting, because I don't know when I'll stop. All right, 3, 2, 1, go.
Next up, we have, I mean, I kind of wanted to save this for last, but at the same time, I just kind of want to get it out of the way. Kind of just Brandy's role in everything, I guess, all the Brandy problems. And this isn't to say, like, we dislike her. She seems very nice, and she's married to one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. So, which I wouldn't have said just over a year ago.
For sure.
So it's like, I don't think she, like, just doesn't have a place, but it's just, and I mean, she's like the women's chief, or however, women's,
She's the chief brandy officer.
Yeah.
Which really has nothing to do with the women, but they gave her a role to, like, be in charge of the women, her and Kenny. And that wasn't working well, and I heard Tony kind of took the reins away. And when we heard that rumor, it was actually getting a lot better. And then I just don't know what's happened since then. But
yeah, I don't know. I mean, it seems like Brandy still has a lot of control in what's going on, especially with, like, the her just kind of shoehorning herself into, like, different storylines, and the thing with QT Marshall, then now the thing with Ali, and which I don't want to go more into the Women's Cup, but now I kind of wonder if they're going to win that thing, because, like, they're the only team.
I hope not.
Yeah, but anyway, I just, and on top of that, and I'm not trying to be, like, cynical or anything, but it's just, she's just not very good in the ring either. I would just rather see other women, so
this just isn't the stage for her to get good in the ring either.
Yeah.
Was it like Roddy Piper's daughter only featured one time in the 21 woman battle royal because she wasn't very good.
Yeah.
And that's not the stage to become good.
Mm-hmm.
It's just not, and that's okay. Like, I think that's what Dark is for, as much as I also don't like seeing her on Dark. But, like, that's what Dark is for, or that's what the Indies were for. I wonder what things would be slightly different. Impact gave her a chance, and so her and Ali and her had some feuding in Impact, and that trickled into the beginning of AEW. And I didn't hate their storyline at first; I just didn't really like her. Mm-hmm. And then Brandy was very heavily involved in the Nightmare Collective, which the weirdest thing about the Nightmare Collective was that Cody was kind of like, I don't know what's going on with my wife, but it's part of my family thing. That was the weirdest thing to me. And then she transitions out of that to be like, oh, she's going to hang out with QT Marshall and Dustin Rhodes.
Yeah.
Randomly, sometimes she's with Cody. I just don't know. Now she's in a tag with Ali. She's not good in the ring. She's not a good promo. Mm-hmm. She doesn't know when to smile. Like, she just comes out so awkwardly.
Yeah.
And it's like so awkward. But when she was a heel, in TNA Impact, with Cody, like, I didn't hate her. And I've told you this 100 times, but, like, as a heel, you can be a little weird and just not quite, like, you're just there to be a bee and, like, make sure your husband wins. Like, that's not that hard. And she did it pretty well, I felt. But as it sits right now, like she's trying to be a baby face and she's just awkward and weird and annoying. And like you said, I don't hate her. I'm sure she's a fine person.
Yeah.
But stop shoving her down my throat, please.
Yeah.
Like, please, for the love of Roman Reigns, I guess that's what she is. But like, stop shoving her down my throat. I can't handle it anymore. I don't care about her storylines. I don't care about, like, this is another failed, potentially third failed storyline that she's been in.
Sure.
I don't think anyone's really invested in this. I think QT Marshall being gone because of Corona probably played some part into me not being as invested in this whole story, because
he was still here up until, through.
It was just a couple of weeks ago, but they've been like coming out with like a fat head of his face or like thing that says like "I love QT." I don't know if there's actually a fat head, but in my head there was. Yeah. But yeah, so this whole thing is supposed to be like, I don't know, like Brady cares about QT and like Dustin cares about QT and they know Allie's bad for him. But like, how did Allie even leave her husband? Like,
yeah,
we know that Allie is married to the Blade. So like, how do you just, okay, now you're flirting with, and I may have missed the initial like flirtation starting or whatever on Dark, because I didn't watch Dark for a few weeks, and then randomly I saw it was going on Dark. Anyway, all that to say, like, what? Why? What is this? And please tell me this whole Tag Team Women's Cup isn't all about them.
Yeah.
Because if it's literally in existence because of them, I'm going to be really, really upset.
Yeah, no, definitely. It's again, I feel like a lot of this is going to revolve around the Women's Cup because that's just the most up in the air thing. But yeah, it's still all true. Next up, we have the idea. Well, not idea, because I'm fine with this, but women's managers. I guess more just the execution of it. Obviously, we all know that Nyla Rose has Vicky Guerrero as a manager. If you've seen a review on that Dynamite episode, then you would know that we were kind of scratching our heads at that, just for a couple of reasons. One, I don't think Nyla needs a manager. I think that should be with someone else in that division. And then also the idea of like a non-wrestler being a manager has like always been like really weird to me. So yeah, those are kind of my initial thoughts on it.
Yeah, I think, you probably have more to say about this than me, but I just flat out like don't like Vicky as this manager.
Yeah.
I like the idea that like a female competitor is getting a female manager. Like that's the idea that's happening here. I think that's necessary. Like that's another thing, maybe like equality wise, that we have been missing. Women have typically, if they were a manager, it was for a man, and it was to be like a side piece or something that was to look good next to the man. And so I do like this idea. I do like the fact that like Vicky isn't supposed to look good. Like,
yeah,
those things make me happy. I just don't like the execution of this. I think it doesn't make sense for Vicky to be like, what can Nyla actually benefit from Vicky Guerrero?
Right.
That I don't know. You and I were talking just before this, and we were looking at the 21 women battle royal, and I'm like, Jazz would be decent here. Like, if you were gonna give Nyla an actual manager, like Jazz would be decent. Jazz was a strong competitor, or you can put Jazz with Big Swole. Like, I could see that, but
yeah, I would actually like that way more.
That would be really cool, I think, because they both kind of have similar like physiques. Like, they're both buff women. Like, not just that they're both black, but they both have like both buff women. They had similar hairstyles and stuff back in the day. That would actually be kind of cool to me. But I just don't understand the Vicky play here at all. So
yeah, that's all we got for it. There's not a whole lot to go off of on that one because it's only been a couple weeks.
Sure.
But that's our initial thoughts on that. Next up, we have, this one's not really their fault, but the injuries that have been going around with the women's division, so such as Chris Statlander and Britt Baker and kind of Awesome Kong, but I know she was also filming a season for Glow, so I don't actually know
if we just talk about the things that are preventing women from competing, we also throw in the coronavirus situation. Like, there's so many women who just can't compete right now, which isn't their fault. So B. Priestley, from what I understand, but we talked B. Priestley's kind of yes and no, because from what I understood, she probably could have been competing before this and wasn't much. Um, they did use Shanna a lot. She was actually doing very well. She was on Dark like almost every week, but she's more likely stuck in Portugal. So, unfortunately, there's a huge part of this group that just can't compete, and it's not their fault.
Yeah, but the thing that's more critical about it, though, is it's not like everything was fine in that department and then coronavirus hit. It's like this was already a problem.
Yeah.
And then now there's just also the coronavirus.
And a couple injuries. And,
yeah.
I think the biggest thing when we talk about, what is lacking because of an uncontrollable is the Britt Baker Big Swole feud right now. That feud needs to come to a conclusion sometime soon. Yeah. And I don't know how much longer they can push it out. But that is definitely lacking because the talent can't get there. Then we also have talent who probably could and then can't, and that's probably our next point. But you have anything more to say about injuries or anything like that?
That's just kind of more in the unfortunate reality of wrestling. So, but going on off more of that point, the absent talent. I remember. I just have B. Priestley in my head, but there was that rivalry kind of with Britt Baker and B. Priestley, and then after that wrapped up, B was just like a ghost up until she showed up. I remember her showing up once because she had all new gear and a whole new getup and everything.
Yeah,
and it was in February or something like that, and so she wrestled once and lost, I think, and then that was it.
Yeah,
and so it's and of course now she can't come because she's probably lives in, you were saying she's from the UK or whatever. So it's but it's that's still wasted potential of just having people on your roster that you're not even utilizing, and it goes back to the original point of, there's not really a lot of storylines. It's just random matches being thrown together from people, whoever they can grab.
Yeah. I'm going to quickly scroll through the women's division here. And we have this kind of absentees that, from what I understand, are available. And for some reason they see this video and they're angry because they're not available. I do want to apologize. But Abaddon, she's 1-1 right now. Just got signed 4 weeks ago-ish because of a storyline. They were like, Abaddon is all elite. Haven't seen Abaddon. Now, to be fair, I was thinking, though, you don't want to sign somebody and then the next week you have all the storyline stuff for them. You kind of want to be able to plan out a story. So maybe they have stories that they're figuring out and they're going to weave in hopefully soon. But I think they need to pick some of these stories that they probably have in their pocket and start playing them now. Anna Jay. So Anna Jay is bothering me the most because I want to know what's going on with the Dark Order.
Yeah.
Did she join the Dark Order? Is there going to be finally a woman in one of these factions, which I've been wanting to see since day one? Awesome Kong's out for a movie. B. Priestley is UK. Big Swole is stuck in a feud with an injured person. I don't need to say anything more about Brandy. Emi Sakura, probably stuck in Japan.
Yeah.
Thankfully, Hikaru Shida, I believe, moved to Florida, so thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
Chris Statlander's injured. Leva Bates. Leva Bates has basically become that manager role for...
Yeah, she's been kind of a useless... Just that whole librarian thing. So he has nothing going on, nothing. She'll probably never have anything going on, really.
So Mel has been here for over a year.
Yep.
And Mel is 1-2 total career.
Over a year? I don't know about that.
I'm pretty sure it's over a year.
Well, the first we saw her was the Nightmare Collective thing in January.
That was this January? Man, the coronavirus is weird. I feel like it was last year, but... Either way, 1-2 is pretty bad, and you shaved your head for this. Penelope Ford, I think, is one of the ones that
Yeah.
they need to kind of figure out a way to keep her in the title picture.
Yeah, right.
Because so her career is 6-6. So that's 50-50, not too bad. She's 6-4 this year, and one of those was the title match loss. So that's pretty good.
Yeah.
And I think she's really good on TV when she is.
Yeah.
Riho, I believe, is stuck in Japan. Sadie Gibbs, from what I understand, Sadie Gibbs is American, but wrestles a lot out of the country. But similarly to B. Priestley, they were not using her before coronavirus. Yeah. So I don't know if you had plans. I don't know what's going on, but yeah. Shanna, who is stuck in Portugal, from what I understand, and then Yuka Sakazaki, who has had 3 matches this year, which is still
and 2 of them. One was in Double or Nothing 2019, and the other was in Fyter Fest.
So she's had 5 total matches in AEW, but 3 of them in 2020.
Oh, okay, that's okay.
Yeah. So it actually is a little better than I would have thought, but I don't know that, like, I say this with the risk of sounding, I don't know, racist, but I don't know that we want another prominent Japanese wrestler right now. Like, we have, like, Riho, to me, at any point could fight Hikaru Shida for the title. Hikaru Shida is the champion. Like, they're both very prominent in the division. I want to see other women step up.
Yeah,
mostly because,
like, especially
of mouthpiece.
And for like our American fan base, you got to kind of like weave things in, because otherwise, people who are just like casual fans, it's like they don't. Well, it's not even the fact that they're Japanese; they're just not American-made names. Like, they're not big states yet. So I don't. Yeah, that's a fair point.
Yeah, there's also, they had 21 women show up for the Casino Battle Royal, and Mercedes Martinez, I think, is the biggest one that AEW lost out to WWE on. And I was pretty mad when Mercedes Martinez did that, but when you look at this floundering women's division, I can't blame anybody for going to WWE. Like, WWE's current women's division isn't awful, both on NXT and on the main roster, believe it or not. So, I think AEW needs to talk about the women's division very, very strongly. Is there anything good off the top of your head you can think about in the women's division right now?
Penelope Ford getting more time to shine. I think it's been really good. That's probably one of the best. And Big Swole too. Even though she isn't really able to wrestle, her just having her face shown, I think, is important in the long run.
Yeah.
Them getting more diverse with stuff, with like signing Abaddon and everything, and then potentially, if we ever, it could be a huge positive if Anna Jay, they kind of shed more light on that.
Yeah.
So, and I think Hikaru Shida is a good champion. She's just like stuck with nothing to do. So,
yeah,
those are kind of the main things, I think.
Yeah, I think one thing is that this tournament could be, even if it's Mod Podge teams, it could be really good for the division.
Oh yeah, it could be.
I don't think so. I don't think it will.
Yeah,
but I could be pleasantly surprised, and they introduce us to 20 new women who could show up and could unfortunately, the women have 1 title while the men have 3, so that's obvious. There's obviously a big discrepancy in how much featured time there will be, but this could introduce us to more women, diversify the roster just a little more, and if everybody could show up who could, like, if you leave the coronavirus people out and the injured people out, if everybody who could show up could, I think they could save this division in a few weeks. In a few weeks' time, with a couple good stories, building some weird feuds of some sort, like, I don't know, but they could definitely do something to jumpstart this this roster, this part of their roster. But they need to.
Yeah. Go ahead and let us know what you guys. What's that?
So I was just trying to make the ugliest face I could, because that's how I feel about this division.
Yeah, go ahead and let us know what you guys think in the comments below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, maybe share this video around, as we're going to be releasing more content as time goes on. So until next time, that's another in the can.